Thank you. Thank you. It's bad enough I have to follow Wayne LaPierre, but now I have to follow my friend Nick Kasoulas. Nick, thank you for being here. Friends, today's May 21st. That means we have 170 days until Election Day. And those 170 days will determine the type of country we leave to our kids and our grandkids. Because the very idea of America is at stake, and the consequences of losing this election are truly frightening. But if any group is ready and able to make a difference, it's you, the men and women of the National Rifle Association. Where others have talked, you've fought. Where others have lost, you've won. We're the most fearsome grassroots army in the history of freedom. And your power doesn't come from special connections, big money, or media air support. You do it the old-fashioned way. Father to son, mother to daughter, door to door, heart to heart. In the face of this relentless onslaught of gun control schemes, an all-out billion-dollar demonization of guns and gun owners, and in an era where every other freedom's been carved up and gutted, you're the reason the Second Amendment still stands. You retired Bill Clinton's semi-auto ban and defeated Barack Obama's attempt to expand it. You defeated federal magazine restrictions and ammo bans. You protected America's gun manufacturers against lawsuits that would have put them out of business. Thanks to you, right to carry has been expanded across the country. We now have some form of right to carry in all 50 states, so thank you. But there's more to do. As our friend Sheriff Clark spoke about yesterday, our right to defend ourselves doesn't end at your front door, car door, restaurant door, or state line. We need a Congress to pass national right to carry reciprocity and a president to sign it into law, and we're not going to stop until we get it. But friends, the truth is, this year's bigger than legislation, more fundamental, existential. I'll put it this way. If you're at home and someone kicks in your door and tries to murder you and your family, should you have the right to defend yourself with a firearm? Friends, that question will be answered for all of us this November, because the next president's first decision will be who to nominate as Justice Scalia's replacement on the U.S. Supreme Court. His majority opinion in the Heller case set legal precedent for what Americans have always known. Of course we have an individual right to own a firearm, and of course we can use it to protect ourselves in our own home. And thank God we won that case. We should have won it 9-0, but we won it 5-4. 5-4. And after Justice Scalia's death, we don't have 5 votes anymore. Our majority is gone. And in case you're wondering where Hillary stands on this, she said, quote, "The Supreme Court got it wrong on the Second Amendment." It's that simple and that clear. The next president chooses the 5th justice, so the Second Amendment is on the ballot in November. The end of our freedom really is that close, and Hillary Clinton knows it. If she wins the presidency, she'll use every tool at her disposal to destroy what we believe in. So while she goes through the front door of the U.S. Supreme Court, she'll go through the back door, also of suing gun manufacturers into bankruptcy. The logic behind her argument is so absurd that it'd be laughable if the threat wasn't so real. When a criminal knocks out a convenience store clerk with a baseball bat, you don't sue Louisville Slugger. And when a drunk driver rolls his car into oncoming traffic, you don't sue General Motors. But when a terrorist shoots dozens of people in San Bernardino, or a deranged monster slaughters school children, well, according to Hillary, that's the gun manufacturer's fault, and they ought to be sued for it. This has absolutely nothing to do with keeping anyone safer anywhere, and everything to do with banning your guns. Don't believe me? Let's just listen to that well-known voice of reason on the Second Amendment, Bernie Sanders.
If you go to a gun store and you legally purchase a gun, and then 3 days later, you go out and you start killing people, is the point of this lawsuit to hold the gun shop owner or the manufacturer of that gun liable. If that is the point, I have to tell you I disagree. But if they are selling a product to a person who buys it legally, what you're really talking about is ending gun manufacturing in America. I don't agree with that.
I don't say this often. Okay, fine, I've never said it. But Bernie's right. Holding gun manufacturers liable for the acts of madmen and terrorists will put them out of business overnight. And if there are no firearms, there's no firearms freedom. They want to create an illusion. They want to create an illusion that they're doing something to keep us safe. But as Wayne said, they don't need more gun control to do that. Under existing federal laws, President Obama could take every felon with a gun, drug dealer with a gun, and criminal gang member with a gun off the streets today and put them in prison for 5 years or more. But like Bill Clinton before him, he sits back and does nothing. So he can exploit the carnage that he refuses to stop, so he can call for more gun control laws that he won't enforce. Under the Obama-Clinton justice system, it's never the criminal's fault. No, it's your fault for owning a gun. Recently, in a rare moment of honesty, Hillary Clinton told the American people what she really believes in terms of gun policy. When she was pressed for the truth, she turned to Australia.
The Australian government, as part of trying to clamp down on the availability of automatic weapons, offered a good price for buying hundreds of thousands of guns, and then they basically clamped down going forward in terms of having, more of a background check approach, more of a permitting approach. But they believed, and I think the evidence supports them, that by offering to buy back those guns, they were able to, curtail the supply and to set a different standard for gun purchases in the future. Now, communities have done that in our country. Several communities have done gun buyback programs, but I think it would be worth considering doing it on the national level if that could be arranged.
Let's break down what she means in very real terms. Less than 20 years ago, Australia's government banned, confiscated, and destroyed 640,000 lawfully owned firearms. Here's an ad they ran in every major newspaper back then. It says, "Personal protection is no reason to have a gun. If you own a gun, which you keep to protect yourself, your family, or your property, you must dispose of it. No exceptions, no excuses." Wow, but maybe you're thinking they just went after handguns. No, that's not a handgun. It's a Remington 870 Wingmaster. They did the same thing with Ruger 1022s and almost every other popular firearm owned by lawful gun owners like you. So what happens to those of us that say, the hell with that, I just won't turn them in? They had a message for us too. Think about it now, or you could get 12 months to think about nothing else. Prison rape. That's not exactly subtle, but it's the truth. When Hillary talks about modeling America's gun policies after Australia, that's the very raw, very real future she's dreaming about. Now, over the next 170 days, she'll probably try to back away from that to win the election. But mark her words, that's what she believes, and that's what she'll do. But I guess it's okay if it works, right? Well, did it? Let me tell you about an Australian woman named Donna Blakemore. One night, she and her husband, Gary, went out for drinks to celebrate her friend's birthday. Somewhere along the way, Gary got mad. Back at home, the fight escalated. Push became a shove. And then came the unimaginable. He doused Donna with gasoline and lit her on fire. For that impossibly cruel medieval abuse, which left Donna's body permanently scarred and her face nearly unrecognizable, Gary served just 15 months in prison. Her lungs were damaged, her voice destroyed, and her skin was numb. And he was back on the streets in 15 months. Donna feared for her life. Racked by nightmares and depression, all she could do was file for a restraining order. A restraining order to defend her life against a monster. You know where I found that story? In Australia's Sunday Telegraph newspaper on June 1st, 1997, right next to another ad threatening citizens to turn in their firearms or go to prison. The same government that couldn't put a man as thoroughly evil as anyone who has ever walked the earth behind bars for more than 15 months will lock up anyone who values their lives above monsters like him for 12. Here's a more recent one. One night in 2011, 29-year-old Kane Cook didn't get home until 1:40 in the morning. But instead of going to bed, he found himself in a fight for his life against 4 men who laid in wait inside. Despite being 14 years after Australia's gun ban, surprise, surprise, one of these thugs somehow managed to have a firearm anyway. But after a desperate struggle, Cook managed to grab it from him and shoot his would-be assassin in the leg. The thug bled to death on the streets outside. Thank God Kane Cook managed to get his hands on that firearm. Thank God the good guy won and justice prevailed. Except it didn't, because he was in Australia, not America. So rather than move on with his life, he stood trial for manslaughter, for defending his life, not with his gun, but with his would-be assassin's gun. So in Australia, Hillary Clinton's gun control utopia, there's no right to defend yourself with a firearm in your own home. Look, Australia might be a beautiful place to visit, and I know it's home to millions of wonderful people, but when killers and thieves have as much right to be in your home as you do, well, in the eyes of your government, your life simply does not matter. Those values are on the ballot this November. In fact, they're already here. We've watched in disbelief as President Obama preaches compassion towards violent repeat offenders. Last fall, his Justice Department released 6,000 federal inmates. The tragic, inevitable result of this perverted sense of justice is that good people die. One of Obama's so-called nonviolent offenders was a convicted crack dealer. As soon as that despicable thug left prison with his presidential hall pass, he hunted down his ex-girlfriend and stabbed her to death. Her 2 kids, ages 7 and 10, stood by and watched. But this monster decided he couldn't afford any witnesses, so he killed them too. As vicious, unconscionable, and despicable as his actions were, every single one of us could have seen it coming. But our elitist president wanted to prove how compassionate he was. Showing compassion towards violent criminals, but treating law-abiding gun owners like public enemies isn't compassion at all. It's corruption. And either we end it now or condemn our children and grandchildren to life beneath this morally rotten philosophy. It's a pretty uncomfortable thought, isn't it? Most Americans know it's true, but just don't have the stomach to think about it anymore. They're fighting to keep their jobs and feed their families. The last thing they want to worry about after they put their kids to bed is the end of their freedom. I'm sure you wish you didn't have to deal with it either. But that's what makes you so special. And it's why the politicians fear you, because you don't have to be here this morning. No one's forcing you to stand and fight for your beliefs, especially when those beliefs put a giant target on your back. Hate speech, name-calling, and personal attacks against gun owners aren't just accepted by the mainstream media, they're encouraged. But you don't care. You're here anyway, because you feel the fierce urgency American patriots have always felt. We either put the burden of saving this country on our backs right here, right now, or we will lose it forever. Folks, it's our time to fight like the third monkey on the ramp to Noah's Ark. And if you're ready to do that, you're in good company. One of our own, Kim Corbin, was the victim of a brutal attack on her gun-free college campus. But rather than let that tragedy define her, she chose to stand and fight for her Second Amendment rights. She even spoke the truth to the president at CNN's quote-unquote town hall. It takes an incredible threshold for discomfort to relive that attack over and over again on the public stage and to weather the despicable insults and attacks from our opponents. But Kim fights for more than herself. She's fighting for the rights of American women everywhere so they won't be forced into utter vulnerability like she was. Kim Corbin is a testament to who we are and why we win, and she's here with us. Kim, please stand and be recognized. You're an inspiration to all of us. If you live in government housing because it's all you can afford, and the housing authority can't keep drug dealers and violent felons from terrorizing you and your neighbors, then they have no right to tell you you can't own a gun to defend yourself. But that's exactly what happened to another great friend of ours, Josephine Byrd. Thank God she refused to stay silent in the face of that injustice. Please watch.
I'm a good person. I never bothered anybody. But I can't afford a nice house in a safe neighborhood. I live in a government high-rise. Gangbangers and drug dealers walk down our halls every day. My neighbors and I were scared. We called the police, but they can't keep us safe. Some of us are too afraid to even leave our apartments. But the housing authority told me if I bought a gun to protect myself, they throw me to the streets. If I'm not free because of my address today, what makes you think you'll be free tomorrow? I marched behind Martin Luther King at Selma. I know my rights. Now I have my gun. I am the National Rifle Association of America, and I'm freedom's safest place.
Every resident of Delaware Public Housing has Josephine Byrd to thank for being able to exercise their Second Amendment rights. She's a true American hero, and she's with us here today. Miss Josephine, please stand and let us thank you for what you've done. Hey, Hillary, I'm the NRA, and I'm with her. We've got another hero with us today, a man whose courage and selflessness were proven under the most extreme conditions, a man who refused to stand down when innocent lives were at stake, in direct contrast to Hillary Clinton's cowardice and betrayal. But I'll let him tell the story. Please watch.
I know the truth about Benghazi. I was there, fighting alongside 5 Americans who were all raised to believe that if you have a chance to save someone's life and you don't try, that's more criminal than anything else. So we fought for 13 hours and we saved lives. But we are not unique. We are no different than the Americans who ran back into those crumbling New York towers, or the Americans who tackled the armed terrorists on that French train, or the many faceless, nameless Americans who every day risk their lives for perfect strangers, trapped in burning cars or dangerous waters. Because if they didn't, no one would. Where was that courage among the politicians who had the power to make a difference during those 13 hours in Benghazi? I am the National Rifle Association of America, and I'm freedom's safest place.
Mark Geist is an American hero, and we're proud and honored that he's with us today. Mark, please stand and be recognized. Take a look around this room. You're the Americans Mark was talking about. You don't care about what's popular. You stand and fight for what's right. You're the tip of the spear, the ironclad face of tens of millions of patriots all over this country. We are Mark Geist and Kim Corbin and Josephine Byrd. We're moms and dads, neighbors and friends. And for the next 170 days, we're going to come together and fight like hell. In the face of this existential threat to our freedom and our country, Hillary, mark my words, you picked this fight, but we will win it. The stakes could not be higher, the fight could not be tougher, but thankfully, the NRA's never been stronger. I'm proud to fight by your side to preserve this beautiful idea called America. God bless you for everything you're doing. Let's go fight like hell and make America great again. Thank you.